Hi, welcome to the Westpac Collections Wellbeing Program. I'm Dr. Adam Fraser, and what this program's all about is how do we take the latest science, put it in a practical form so that you can use it to improve your happiness, your well-being, and also your performance. Now, last module was all about how we manage the story inside our head, and we talked about a thing called explanation style. And this is all about how we explain the world to ourselves. And what we looked at here is sometimes the stories we tell ourselves we blow out of proportion or make really bad or permanent or pervasive. And what this video is about is how do we have a more accurate, realistic and optimistic explanation style. Within that, we also talked about the fact that we fall into thinking traps, personalization, black and white thinking, catastrophizing. And what that module is about is how do we take those two things, start to monitor and notice our thoughts, and notice when our negative thoughts fall into these patterns, and challenge them and come up with better thinking patterns. So that was the last module. This module is going to build on that concept of how do we handle negative thoughts. So this is new cutting edge science in psychology, and because of that, because it's so new, it's hard to teach. So just stick with me. I'm going to talk about a concept that might sound a bit bizarre, but then I'm going to give you heaps of examples so that the concept starts to become more clear. So stay with me on this. Now, this new part of psychology is called ACT. And what ACT stands for is acceptance, commitment, take action. So what ACT says is stop trying to fight your negative thoughts. Give up trying to stop having negative thoughts. Because you have 60,000 thoughts a day that go through your head. Some of them are going to be positive, some are going to be negative, some are going to be a little bit weird and you wouldn't want anyone to know what you're thinking. But we've just got all these thoughts going through our head. And what ACT says is when you have negative thoughts, you've got to accept those thoughts, just accept that they're there, commit to doing something that will improve your situation, and then take action on that. Acceptance, commitment, take action. So, for example, it might be, say you're having all these negative thoughts about workload and work and stress and all these sorts of things. So you've got all these negative thoughts, I'm overwhelmed, I can't do this anymore. And rather than trying to stop it, just accept, I'm having a lot of negative thoughts right now. I'm having all these negative thoughts. Accept them. Well, I've got a lot on at the moment, so that's probably a pretty natural reaction to what's happening. Commitment. But the most important thing I can do right now is cross a couple of things off my to-do list. Get a bit organized. Take action. Acceptance, commitment, take action. Let me explain it another way. So what ACT says is, here's you. Here are your thoughts. And here is the action you need to take to improve your situation. So your thoughts, action. And rather than trying to battle your thoughts and stop them, because when you do that, all the energy goes into your thoughts, accept the thoughts and focus on the stuff that's going to improve your situation. And what ACT says is you need to keep psychological space between you and your thoughts. Because often we have a thought and it then becomes our reality. We have a thought that we're stressed and we go, oh my God, I'm so stressed. Or we have a thought that we're not good enough. Oh, I'm just not good enough. Or we have a thought that, our situation's hopeless. Oh, it's just hopeless. And what ACT says is you've got to keep psychological space between you and your thoughts. You can't let your thoughts become your reality and overwhelm you. And the exact process to do this is, first of all, notice. So notice your thoughts. I'm having these thoughts. The next one is name the thoughts. And that keeps the psychological space. And the exact line is, I'm noticing I'm having the thought that. I'm noticing I'm having the thought that I'm stressed. I'm noticing I'm having the thought that I'm overwhelmed. I'm noticing I'm having the thought that I'm out of my depth. That is very different than, I'm so stressed. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm out of my depth. Has a very different impact on you. That line is critical. The third part is called normalize. And that is all about the acceptance. I got a lot on, so I'm probably going to have some negative thoughts. Yeah, I'm doubting my ability. Yeah, I often do that. That's pretty normal. That is a critical step. And the acceptance, rather than trying to fight the thought, takes all the sting out of it, takes the emotion out of it, takes the judgment out of it. And the last part is action. And this is where we focus on things that will improve our situation. This is the exact process. Notice the thoughts, name them. I'm noticing I'm having the thought that I'm anxious right now. Normalize it. Yeah, that's my situation. That's what's going on for me right now. That's okay. Action. This is going to improve my situation. That's what I'm going to focus on. So what we have shown in research is that this strategy dramatically reduces anxiety and also improves people's mental health and well-being. A couple of examples. They did a leadership study. So when leaders go to leadership training, they get new strategies, they go back to work, they try them, but then the negative thoughts come in of that didn't work, or you embarrassed yourself, or this is all too hard, and then they tend to just go back to their old behaviour. But this one study took a group of leaders, put them in a leadership training, split them in half. One group got ACT training, and the other group didn't. And the group that got ACT training showed dramatically much more behaviour change. They changed their leadership much more. And the reason is that they went back to work, they had these negative thoughts like the other group, but they went, all right, yeah, actually I'm having the thought that I've embarrassed myself, or I can't do this, or this isn't going to work. Yeah, in the course they said that that might happen. Normalise it. Yeah, it's a pretty normal reaction to what's going on. Take action. But right now, this is what I want to focus on in my leadership, or this is how I'm going to make that thing work. They change behaviour much more. Actually, Roger Federer, the tennis player, came across this years before psychologists did, because he used to lose his temper really, really badly, and when he did, he'd play terrible. And one day he said to his coach, he said, maybe I should just focus on the tennis. And the coach went, what do you mean? He goes, well, in a match I'm going to get angry, frustrated, sad, elated. He said, I'm going to have all these different thoughts and reactions. Could I just, rather than trying to stop them, accept them and focus on the tennis? And it totally changed the way he played the game. It's funny, I had a personal example of this recently. I was sitting down at the dinner table doing some work, and my wife came up. Actually, I was working on this. And my wife said, what are you working on? I said, well, actually, it's pretty exciting because psychology is rethinking the way we handle negative thought. And I outlined it to her, and she said, how could I use this? And you know that moment where you go, do I stay married or do I tell the truth? And I thought, I'll tell the truth. And I said, Chris, one thing I noticed about you is that the moment you gave birth, you just felt guilty about everything. You know, you just got all this guilt suddenly. And my wife's an Italian Catholic, so she had a black belt in guilt beforehand anyway. But I said, you know, you just felt so guilty. When you're at work, you feel guilty about not being with the kids. When you're with the kids, you feel guilty about not being at work. And the problem is, you just feel bad all the time, and you're not really present when you're at work or with the kids. And she got very quiet, which made me scared. And she kind of went, and walked off. And I thought, oh, God. Anyway, a couple of months later, she came up to me and she said, you know that thing? She said, that has changed my life. She said, I listen to a lot of stuff you talk about, but that thing had a huge impact. She said, because what I've done is I notice those negative thoughts. And she said, and I just name them. I'm having the thought that I'm guilty, or I'm a bad mum, or I'm this, or I'm that, and normalize it. And she said, I just went, yeah, I do that a lot. So that's pretty common. And then I focus on the action. If I'm with the kids, I go, nah, I'm with the kids right now. I really want to be present. Or I'm at work. I have to get this done. She said, what it's done is reduce my anxiety. And this is the thing about this technique. It is so powerful. I've used it. When I used to stand up to present in front of groups, I would just have all these negative thoughts, but I try and battle and stop them. So much so I couldn't even remember the presentation. And I would try and stop them, but they just wouldn't go away. And the guy that taught me this strategy, he said to me, that stuff is never going away. Like, that's just what you do. And he taught me this technique, and I started to use it, and it totally changed. Reduced my anxiety, reduced my stress. I use this thing every single day. And some of you have some pretty tough interactions in a day. You can have calls that are very emotional or very stressful, or, And rather than trying to stop those negative thoughts that come up, can you accept them? Can you normalize them and go, yeah, I just had a really distressing call. What I'm going through right now is a really normal response. And the most important action I can take right now is to take the next call, or to have a break, or to go talk to someone. But rather than trying to stop those thoughts or feel guilty about them, can we accept them and focus on action? And I think this strategy will be incredibly beneficial for you in your roles, because you do have some tough conversations, you do have some tough days. And rather than trying to stop this, accept it and follow this process to reduce the anxiety that's attached to it. This is one of the most powerful techniques I've ever come across. So what I want you to do now is think about what's the action plan you're going to do. Is it that you're going to write this up and put it next to your computer? Is it that you're going to, catch up with a peer from time to time and talk about this? How are you going with that? Have you been using it? Talk about it as a team. But this is such an important strategy for you, particularly in your role. So I hope you get some value out of it, because I have.